Oh boy. Well, sat through another episode of The Expanse with the episode called A Shot in the Dark. Yes, Naomi and Alex work to keep the that other ship, that Barbara ship or whatever it's called. All I know is the Rossi. And they have to keep in orbit despite the power outage that was mysteriously, well, it has to be the protocol molecule. Something going on. We don't know, but it's the underlying mystery and the forces that stands in for, like, you know, gods or God and other like fantasy stories or whatnot. But this is science fiction, so it's some sort of strange representation of alien life. That is one of the great things about the show, and that it's not just, you know, guys in rubber suits or rubber foreheads and whatnot. It's an alien life that we can't even begin to understand, and yet there's all these structures, ancient structures on this planet and all that. Did the proto-molecule build that, or what have you, you know? Well, got to sit through it to find out, but we won't find out in this episode. But nevertheless, the struggle continues, and they're hindered by their own divisions and fighting and whatnot. And even though they've found refuge inside this weird ancient structure to survive the tsunami as a result of nuclear explosion that just suddenly happened. So, of course, Mercury's still going to be a problem. They're plotting in where he is, certainly, in his group, of wiping out the Belters so they can take the planet for themselves and all that stuff. And he explains in depth that he stands to make a lot of money off of this and all that sort of thing. And but for the moment, they're stuck inside there, and they can't have the fight happen anytime soon. So they got to wait out what the tsunami has done when the waters recede, and they can make their move later and all that. But bad enough they've got all this going on and fighting and all that. Yes, there's some sort of weird viral infection, and you just can't go anywhere without getting one of those these days. Yeah. So it attacks their eyes, and so they're all gonna go blind. Except for Holden, which, gee, why is that? Well, that's the mystery, isn't it? Of course, we all know Holden's special, right? Because of Miller and everything. Well, maybe that's what it is. But, so that's the terrible situation they're in. And, boy, that's, no fun, is it? Meanwhile, the rest is a lot of, some of the aspects of the relationships developed between the characters, but also, Kristen's pursuit of power. And the idea that she didn't want the post she's in, but now she can't be defeated. She doesn't want to lose. and then this is pushing her in a place she probably shouldn't go. But she's determined to win her re-election and also prove her abilities here, where they're dealing with the rogue member of the OPA, this little bastard. Who's just stirring up trouble. And that's what you got, Ashford and Drummer looking for. And she sends some Marines to deal with the guy and capture him off of the ship they suspect he's on. Well, he wasn't, and it blows up in her face, and the Marines get killed, and oh, geez, it's just this huge scandal. And not the kind of results she wanted. And so, yeah, well, when you're reckless like that, especially with other people's lives, these things can happen, and it certainly happens to her. Meanwhile, Bobby and her new friends have a new job coming up, and Bobby's uneasy about it, and, well, she's probably right. But the worst thing about it is her life isn't going all that great. Her boyfriend he's got a new job that'll take him off to Europa, and everybody is thinking that Mars is a lost cause. All that time that her patriotism and whatnot she dedicated to Mars. But with the new worlds beyond the ring, the idea of constantly living toward the goal of terraforming Mars has become, silly. You don't need to. And when you've got these oxygen atmospheres on these new planets, why keep pursuing the mission to make Mars habitable. So yeah, that's the reality of it. And so she doesn't like it, but it's undeniable. Meanwhile, back on that world, or well, in orbit of that world beyond the ring, their spaceships are going to crash if they don't figure out how to maintain orbit. So they do. Now, in the working this out and whatnot, they deal with this division between the mother and daughter characters here. The mother, who is more devoted to her ideas of revolution and whatnot for the Belters, and at the cost of her own family. Her husband was warning her about this, and then her daughter hates her and doesn't want anything to do with her, and now she wants to reconcile with her daughter before it's too late. And this is a means by which to achieve the first step towards that, and that's what they're doing here. Now, I do complain an awful lot about soap opera type elements in shows and whatnot, and that's because a lot of them that's all they've got, and they devote way too much time to it without any other elements of the show and whatnot. Expanse doesn't do that. And they make so good use of their budget and stuff when they show something spectacular like this, which is the spaceships coming together and figuring out how to salvage their situation. And they pull it off, and it looks cool, looks real and believable. I'm not a scientist. Is this really how it would be? It looks like it to me. I don't know. And a lot of it gains credibility to it is that the spaceships in the Expanse are not pretty. They're not like Star Trek or Star Wars. Even though the Rossi is pretty recognizable, but it's just a hunk of metal. But I don't know. Yeah, you get to liking it. So that's all well and good, and the simplicity of it is a means by which, if you're good at it, can make it all seem rather spectacular. And then they do it, and it pulls it off. So another fine episode. No real complaints here. So, oh boy, Expanse is a show, yes, you should check out if you haven't already. Thank you for watching and listening. Say, why not like and subscribe, and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my many stores that have plenty of goodies for you. Yes, that's right, you. And of course, you can catch my comic book Night Night over at indieplanet.com, and you can also catch my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com, and you can also watch my videos on the Mr Nailsin channel on BitChute.com.